Happy or Chad.
Yeah,
Happy is your F3 name.
that's right.
Mine is the situation for everyone out there who doesn't know. But Chad, can we talk about your journey as far as like the things you've had as far as injuries
Mhm.
go as a runner, as a hybrid athlete before we saw you?
Sure. As we talk a little bit about the kind of my fitness journey, one of the things about that workout group is there's a lot of different variables of people of who push each other in different ways. For years, I just stopped running. I thought because I had like runner's knee in my 30s, I'd never be able to run again. So I just stopped. And then as I got into more and more workout regularly, my body got stronger. One day I was able to run 3 miles, and then I was running 5 and then 10 and so on. So what that really translated into, especially with a lot of the people around me that were really motivating that I see on a regular basis, is it really started to push to like harder and more difficult things.
Yeah.
So that kind of evolved over time to a guy who was running maybe 10, 12, 15 miles a week to a guy who's running 40, 50 miles a week. Next thing you're doing what we call is completely stupid and utterly pointless things, which are like really high intensity, long-term things, or in my case, ultra marathons. And as that happens, I joke because there was phases of development. For a year and a half, there was just a constant phase of ache somewhere. It moved up one leg, then down the other, and went back around until my body just settled in. And I never paid attention to the kind of warning signs that there was probably going to be something wrong at some point.
Yeah.
So before I came and saw you, what I would typically do there is when things got really rough, if I was training for a big event or for a relay or something that was going to take a tremendous amount of time, and I really felt something going wrong, I'd go see another PT or my chiropractor and just treat some symptom related things, especially at
Yeah.
the other PT clinics and so on, as I refer to as keeping the wheels on the bus,
Yes.
right? Just keep the wheels on the bus, get me through the race. And when it's done, I'll take some time off.
Yes.
And where that really bubbled up before I took the opportunity to come talk to you more about it was this past year as I was training for my springtime is when I do my big events.
Yeah.
So I typically have a workup race, which in this case was the Uwari 40-mile trail race
All right.
before my big race, which this year was the Umstead 100. And so there's like a 3 to 4 month window where my training goes up big,
Yeah.
right? And right about the time I was finishing Uwari, I noticed a problem setting in my foot. I
Mm.
mean, I've had plantar fasciitis before in my right
Yeah.
foot. That's what stopped me from running years ago.
Yeah.
But this one was different. But it was one of those things where it wasn't debilitating and I was able to work through it. Plus, it was like, I can't take time off because between that race and the next one is only 6 weeks. Got to pile the miles on. And similar situation where about a week and a half before the race, I found myself like the ache was getting to something where I really couldn't run it off in a couple minutes. It was affecting every day, getting out of bed every morning.
Mm.
So I went to the old school PT
Yes.
and I said, keep the wheels on the bus. So I got through the race, which is a good thing. Wheels stayed on the bus. But then I found I took 2 weeks off, wasn't getting better. Worked
Mm.
out a little bit, took another 2 weeks off. It wasn't getting any better. It actually was getting worse. The less I was doing things, I was like, okay, I have a real problem. And some people that I really looked to in my circle obviously had experience with you, and I knew
Yeah.
you personally in this event as well, but never came and saw you. And these are people that I trust are like, we've actually improved these things. I'm like,
Mm.
okay, now's the time. I can see Jared.
That's right. That's awesome. So it sounds like you tried and I like that you say old school because I think we're all part of the old school approach before, but obviously, unfortunately, there are a lot of PT practices that stay in the old school kind of ways, traditional approach,
Mhm.
and they don't evolve or they don't use any kind of cutting edge technologies to actually get people to get an accelerated result, which is what we're trying to do. Like our goal is, yeah, let's treat the symptoms with our tools, but let's find the root cause of why
Yeah.
we're having these in the first place.
Yeah, they kept the
Uh,
wheels on the bus,
yeah, exactly.
right? Not young anymore,
Mhm.
and I enjoy what I'm doing, and like not being able to do my normal routine, even post recovery for long periods of time, actually messes with my head a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, I want to be able to do this for a lot of years. So I got to
Yes.
actually deal with this now.
I'm so glad you said that because a lot of guys in our age group, like that's what we just want to stay in the game for as
Mhm.
long as we can. And when we start seeing issues like did you start getting worried about what was going on with you?
Big time. Yeah. Typically, like an overuse type injury,
Yeah.
like even after like years prior, where I would have the typical overuse type strains and inflammation and so on. Give it 2.5 weeks, maybe 3. It's gone. Ease back in. The world is quote unquote right.
Yes.
And this wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And I love what I do now. And so I was like, as I'm hearing people talk about similar problems, we have a friend, Scott Gordon,
Yes.
right,
Oh, yeah.
who had a very similar problem with his foot that it turned into like a heel spur.
Yes.
And the way he described that scared the hell out of me. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no way I'm going through that. So I'm going to theory now.
That's so awesome. I'm glad you felt the urgency. Tell us what your experience was like when you came in. Was it different from the old school places that you've been to?
Yeah, for sure. Number one, the old school places, and again, good people.
Yeah.
Like you said, they help get you back in motion. But what I really liked when we first got here and we had our sit down was you really looked at the body as a whole, but more importantly, isolated that the problem I was having in my foot was being structurally driven by other things. Now, other PTs will talk about that, but I really liked how specific your tech kind of showed it. You remember, like my glutes were shut out of the equation, which was
Right.
affecting my back and my leg and all my calves, of course, which of course
Yes.
all leads down. And it's the first time, other than sitting down with somebody and saying, we want you to do these types of exercises, I'm going to do this type of therapy, that it clicked, that I was
Mm,
able to see, okay, there's a bigger issue at play here. So
yeah.
right out of the gate, I was like, this is the place that I at least bought into when I could focus on to try to improve.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So since you've been here, obviously you did some crazy races recently too, but what was your progress like when you started working with us?
So again, you think back to my last race was the beginning of April. And so I came in here towards the last third or fourth week of May. That's how
Yeah.
long I'd been just out of regular commission. Really worried because, of course, as you mentioned, I had in the fall, I typically do a relay race in the mountains with friends of mine. And it's just tremendous amount of fun, especially this F3 circle that I'm part of. And I was worried that I wasn't gonna be able to keep it together.
Yeah.
And I remember as he started working on me, I was like, man, this is easy. Minus Megan's approach to the strength training,
Yeah.
which by the way, I think she's a little sadistic, which I love because I think she enjoyed just
Yeah.
how uncomfortable I was in those exercises. But the therapy part seemed easy. And I was reflecting on that the other day, and I'm like, it's not normal that when you were putting needles into my feet, that it wasn't uncomfortable.
Mm,
And then by that like third week,
yeah.
it started to become very uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And I remember something you'd said, like you'd said to me that I have to trigger an acute response.
Yeah.
And I really didn't realize the levity or the
Yeah.
weight of that situation, to say better.
Yeah.
And then I started to actually not look forward to almost coming against. I'm like, this is going to really hurt for a minute. And then when the therapy happens, it's good, but
It's
getting those
funny.
needles in isn't
Yeah.
great. And I realized that was actually the blessing piece.
Yes.
So it's really been a cool experience in that.
That's awesome. We did the needling. We also tried the shockwave with
Mhm.
you too, and that was helpful, it
Yeah,
seems.
I
Yeah.
love the shockwave.
Yeah.
I listen. I the therapy parts are always fun. In fact, like, minus the actual part where they're electrified and the shockwave, I actually enjoy. It actually feels
Mm,
good. I love
yeah.
the muscle
Yeah.
stimulation and so on. Yeah, but so we did that. We did the
Uh,
blood restriction. We
yeah.
did.
Blood flow restriction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that was a little torturous, but I also really enjoyed. You made it easy, and Megan especially made it easy to bring those exercises home with the
Yeah.
pictures that they would send, the instructions, and pick the ones, just something every day, or
Yes.
a couple somethings every day to keep that going. So it was really helpful.
Yeah, I'm so glad you talked about that exercise part because we really value trying to make a very customized, personalized program for our clients, as opposed to back in the day where we used to have stick figures on paper and just share a sheet with you.
Yeah.
But we want to make it so that it's something that you can actually do daily and stick to because we know that the long-term benefit of doing a program over time will lead to long-term outcomes where you can sustain the benefits you gain in physical therapy.
Yeah, and it's actually stuck. It's funny because as I was getting ready for the relay race, I was starting to feel tightness in my lower back again. And you could tell that my glutes were disengaging again. And I was like, okay, I haven't done enough of these glute exercises the past couple weeks. So get back into it again.
Yeah.
And now I just find myself at different times of the day standing up and doing this exercise
Oh, nice.
or
So proud of you.
I have to, man. You've got me discipled out now.
That's
So
good. That's awesome. I
yeah.
love that.